Friend, have you had thoughts like, do they like me? Do they believe in me? Will they validate me? I'm 100% positive that you have because you clicked this video. But what I want to know is, do you like you? Do you believe in you? Do you value you? Because listen, it's hard to reach for the stars when you are stuck being you. The you that was fearfully and wonderfully made in God's eyes, but stuck in your eyes. Every day you wake up and you look in the mirror and all you see is the you that's not good enough. The you that can never get anything right. The you that is bossy, stupid, loud, mean, ugly, skinny, fat, slinky, right? And any other negative words that you use to define yourself, whether that is things you speak out loud or things you think in your mind. If I was to monitor your thoughts, would I find more negative thoughts than good? Would I hear you being your biggest critic, your biggest hater? If I was to walk a mile in your shoes, would I see you pushing and encouraging and uplifting other people more than you do yourself? Would I hear you speak negatively about yourself, your looks, your gifts, your little business? Would I hear you speak the words, I can't, or I'm dumb? If any of these things sound like you, friend, any of these things sound like you, friend, I am here to say that you struggle with a negative self-image, and it is negatively affecting your entire life. Listen, friend, my mama always told me, people can only do to you what you will allow. So if you really shift your mindset and your perspective from people to you, the question now is, how do you treat yourself? How do you view yourself? Right? Those are the two questions that you really want to think about. Because if I treat myself kind, if I'm nice to myself, if I think positively about myself, then when it comes down to other people, that also sets the standards for what I will accept, the relationships that I will settle for and what I won't settle for, the expectations for my career, the dreams that I pursue. Now, and it's so crazy because I was literally just talking about believing in yourself on Wednesday in the Words of Wisdom newsletter. Now, friend, if you're not on the email list and you're not getting these weekly doses of wisdom to your inbox at 8:31 p.m. every Wednesday night, then what are you doing? Because every single Wednesday, there are gems. And I mean lengthy gems because y'all know I can talk. So if I can talk, just imagine what I can write. Okay? Listen, every single Wednesday, there is a weekly dose of wisdom for the visionary, for the creative, and for the entrepreneur. We're talking about all things visionary, but also all things vision, right? Okay? Because we got to make sure you together so that you can execute your vision, right? So if you're not on that, just make sure you go ahead, click the link in the description, and I have it in there for you since you're not on the list. I got the newsletter that went out on Wednesday, but make sure you sign up for the one that comes out next Wednesday. All right. Listen, friend, I struggled heavy with a negative self-image. Like when I say real bad, I mean real bad. And the only reason that I know all of these things is because this used to be me. Like literally. I was a girl full of potential, but a tainted perspective. Why in the world was I so negative? Why in the world would I rather tear myself down than build myself up? It doesn't really make sense when you think about it, right? Like, if I already feel bad about not accomplishing a goal, why am I going to keep reminding myself of this failure? Go ahead, stop right now and comment below if this has been you. Like when you really sit back, like, why would I rather spiral and just harp on the things that I failed or things that I didn't accomplish rather than saying, you know what? It's okay, girl, get back up. You know what I'm saying? That same encouragement that I would give to my bestie and my girl, why can I not do the same thing for me? Right? Because I don't know about you, but for me, I was the encourager friend, right? Like, I'm like, girl, you can do it. Get back up. Dust yourself off, girl. You can do it. But then when it came to little old me, I'm like, girl, sit down. You tried and it just won't work. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is really going on? And so comment below, me too, if that was you. Go ahead, comment below. But being honest, it did take me quite some time to finally accept and acknowledge my unique abilities, my unique capabilities, just how I was made. Like, it took me quite some time. And I struggled with a negative self-image, and it literally negatively affected how I viewed my personality, my gifts, my skill set, my mindset, my decision making, and even what I pursued, right? Like, it took me a while to accept the fact that I was a trendsetter. It took me a while to accept the fact that I was creative. It took me a while to accept the fact that I was just loud. Like, I can't do anything about it. You know what I'm saying? The gift can be groomed. It can be cultivated, but I can't take that part, that loud box on the inside of me. I just can't take it out and discard it. So it's like, what am I going to do? Am I just going to sit here and not like myself and just choose to be quiet? Right? Am I going to stop dreaming because I'm a dreamer? That's how I was made. Am I going to stop talking because I'm a talker? Right? No, that's only going to leave me miserable and frustrated. Okay? So again, to be here in 2024 with a healthy view of myself is honestly a blessing. To be able to sit here and fumble over words, to be able to sit here where everything is not together, right? Like, I may not always, look and feel my best, but at the end of the day, to show up in areas and arenas like this, it's just a testimony of the transformation that I have been able to go through, and lots of healing and mindset shifts and all the things, right? And so, saying all that to say, friend, you ain't click on this video just to click on this video. We are here to get to the root, to get to the bottom of our negative self-image, and to have a strategy on how to overcome that. So first things first, before we can even have a strategy to overcome it, we first and foremost have to expose the root. So that's what we about to do, friend. Now, I always say, even for the newsletters, get your journal, because I don't be just talking just to talk for free. One thing about it, I'm going to educate, but I'm also going to give you some action steps. And I promise you, and I can guarantee you that if you apply those action steps, your life will change. Okay. So first things first, the reality is anything negative has a source. There is a source to negativity. So when you look at the word negative self-image, right? That means that when I look upon myself, I see myself through a negative lens or a negative light. When you think about the source of the negativity, right? Sometimes it's easy to blame people, right? We look at it like, oh, like it's my mama's fault, it's my daddy's fault, it's my grandma's fault, it's my cousin's fault, it's their fault, it's their fault. And it is. But when you get to the bottom of the bottom, the source is really the devil. Okay? Now let me fill you in. The devil plants seeds, hoping that these seeds develop into a pattern. So again, the devil is the source of negativity, and he plants seeds, hoping that these seeds develop into a pattern, which then, of course, we consider a root, right? These seeds are being planted through different people and different circumstances. So the seed is being planted by the devil through disguises, people, circumstances, situations, society, governments, all the things, right? But then these seeds take root, and that is what we call a pattern. That is what we call a pattern. So this pattern and this root is built up over time. Just like, when you put a plant in the ground, you put that seed takes root in that dirt, right? That is what happens when the devil plants seeds. So he plants seeds hoping that these seeds turn into patterns and that they take root in your heart. So what do you mean, Demaya? Let me give you an example. When daddy left and was absent, the seed of not being good enough was planted. This seed began to take root in your heart and your mind. Because remember, your heart and your mind is connected. And so when anything else popped up regarding your appearance, your grades, your behavior, it was all not good enough. So again, that seed is developing into a pattern and it's taking root. And every situation, every circumstance, and all of the things is helping to establish that seed and that root within your heart and your mind. So now it's affecting you. So again, when it came to your appearance, your grades, your behavior, all the things, it was not good enough. And so this lie spiraled and it became a pattern, which then affected how you view yourself. And so you begin to believe, since I'm not good enough, I'm going to be like Shauna because Shauna is better than me. Do you see how your view of yourself is now turning into actions, which then is affecting your life? Because if you feel like you're not good enough and you now are struggling with comparison, because if I'm not good enough, then who is? And if I look at them and I'm like, okay, well, I'm not good enough. My appearance not good enough. My grades not good enough. My dreams aren't good enough. So now I'm gonna look at somebody else and make them my standard to live. When in all reality, Shauna, if you try to walk in Shauna's shoes, you're settling, right? You're settling for less than the best because God didn't create you to be Shauna. God created you to be you. You know what I'm saying? So let me give you another example. When grandma would chastise you over the same thing, right? She would chastise you over the same thing or over something that could be very small, but maybe didn't balance it out with love or with grace. The seed of beating yourself up was then planted. And this seed began to take root in your heart and in your mind. So whenever you would make a mistake, it's hard to get over. You would just keep spiraling and thinking and condemning. And even though you already felt bad, that wasn't good enough of a punishment. So this seed developed into a pattern, which took root, right? And this root then affected how you viewed yourself. It affected how you viewed yourself. And so now your behavior is based upon that. Your behavior is based upon how you think, how you view yourself, which then a lot of the times turns into and looks like perfectionism, fear of failure, afraid to make mistakes, guilt, shame, and mental spiraling. So again, do you see how it's all connected? And even if you don't, friend, even if you don't see it yet, hold on, we got to reset the timer. 15 minutes. Even if you don't see it yet, come on, let's go to iPad University. We want to see how it's all connected. So first things first, if you look at your behavior, right, your behavior will reveal that you have a negative self-image, meaning the way that you view yourself, the way that you view yourself. If you want to know the root of the negative self-image, you would then look at the root or the pattern. And then from there, you are going to look at the seed. When was it planted? And so again, people be saying, oh, it ain't that deep. No, honey, it is. For sure. It is that deep. Like, it ain't that serious. Oh, for sure. It's that serious because our behavior is revealing, right? Our behavior is revealing something. You don't just act the way that you act for no reason, right? You don't just talk the way that you talk. You don't just think the way that you think for absolutely positively no reason. There is a reason. There is a deeper why. And so again, from behavior to negative self-image, from negative self-image to the pattern, from the pattern to the seed. Again, roots take place because what's happening is that seed is evolving, right? So that's what has happened. Lies have evolved in your mind. Lies have evolved in your heart. Lies have evolved from the trauma. Lies have evolved from the pain, right? These things do evolve. Negative self-image has evolved. It is a seed that evolved. What does that mean? It took root, right? When you think about, I keep using this example because it's the most perfect example to use. And when we're talking about this, when you put a seed, if I'm trying to plant an apple tree, right, in the ground, I put the seed in the ground. That seed is watered. It's all the things, fed, fertilizer, all the things. I ain't no farmer, but you know what I'm talking about. It's fed, all of those things. That apple seed takes root in the ground. And you may not see the after effects right away, but eventually you're going to see an apple tree above ground. And that's what it's like for us. Things take root underneath ground, right? The seed is planted. They take root underneath ground. What does that mean? Invisibly. Because you can't see what's going on in your mind. You can hear, but you cannot see. You can't see what's going on in your heart, but you can feel, right? So these things are happening underneath ground invisibly, but they affect you in a visible way. And this is why I always say, time's out for brushing things under the rug. Time's out for not dealing with things. Because the reality is, if you do not address them, they're going to manifest and come out in your life. That attitude, anger, rage, irritation, frustration, anxiety, depression, all of those things are outward signs that something is going on the inside of me. The way that you talk to yourself, the way that you think about yourself, all of those things are signs. And that's what I'm here to reveal today. It's a sign. It's a symptom that something is off. And today I challenge you, we need to get to the seed. We need to get to the pattern, right? So that thing that's invisible, we can allow light to be shined on today. Okay. Now, friend, before we wrap up today, I want to leave you with the strategy on how to overcome a negative self-image. Now, these things do take time. You know what I'm saying? But it's when you are, and what I learned, it's so crazy. What I learned from my therapist is that you want to start putting these things into practice so that when it's time for you to use it, it's become a habit, right? Because the thing is, I think so many times when it comes down to bad habits, we don't realize that they formed over time, right? Like this ain't just something you woke up and just was like, oh yeah, like I'm stuck in doing this. No, it became a habit over time. So even when it comes down to unlearning and rebuilding a good habit, you have to incorporate it in your day to day. For me, that was learning how to be still, right? I didn't know how to do that. My first instinct was to just be anxious and all the things, right? But I practiced every single day to be still and to incorporate moments of stillness throughout my day. And now, literally, before filming this, I'm like, I got to film a music video. I got to do. I said, you know what? Nope. When I needed the good habit, it was my first instinct. Instead of being overwhelmed, being flustered, all of the things, I said, nope. I'm going to do what I can do. I'm going to breathe. And I'm going to just take this moment to be still because the work going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So again, I'm giving you this playbook and this strategy for you to start implementing. So when you need it, it be in your arsenal. It be in your book bag. Okay. So number one, got 5 things. 5 things. Number 1, spot the behavior. Spot the behavior. You have to evaluate your life. You have to evaluate your life. What actions are you taking or not taking because of a negative self-image, right? So again, spot the behavior. I said it can look like perfectionism, fear of failure. It can look like a whole different lot of things, right? For me, I was hindered. Like I couldn't even go forth in what I was supposed to be doing. Right? Like I was my biggest critic, right? Like every time I would do something, instead of saying good job, it was like, oh, you could have fixed that. You could have fixed that. No, good job. Right? Instead of giving myself flowers, honey, I was giving myself a audit. You know what I'm saying? So spot the behavior. Spot the behavior. And what will help you is realizing what are unhealthy behaviors or actions that you're taking in your life on a day-to-day. Unhealthy, right? Well, and sometimes the thing is, it could be a good behavior, but if it's to the extreme, it's unhealthy, right? It's good to evaluate. It's good to audit. It's good to, critique. But at any point that it becomes an extreme, it becomes unhealthy. So that's what we are looking for. Any unhealthy behaviors. Number 2, Address why you are behaving this way. This is where the root begins to come into place, because now you want to think about, and of course, incorporate and include the Lord in this, even in this. You want to begin to think, why am I behaving this way? And you also want to reflect on your view of yourself. So in that moment, I want you to think, okay, how do I think about myself? How am I looking at myself? Right? And then number 3, you want to get to the root. So what is the pattern? What is the pattern that you see? When you're thinking about patterns, you also want to spot triggers, right? Because sometimes things trigger. Like for me, when it came down to anxiety, certain times or certain things trigger it where I feel like I can't control something, or things aren't going the way that I expected them to go, or chaos in family, or whatever the case may be. I understood what those triggers were. Like, what were the things that started the pattern? You know what I'm saying? Because you have to be able to spot the trigger so that when the trigger happens, you know what to replace that bad habit with, right? And so again, for us right now, what we're dealing with, the bad habit is a negative self-image. The bad habit is negative thinking. The bad habit is looking at ourselves through a negative lens, right? So again, you want to understand, get to the root, understand what is the pattern, what is the trigger. Identify those things. What is the pattern? What is the trigger? Pattern again being how do things play out when I don't do something right, or I want to try a new thing, right? Maybe those are the triggers. What is the pattern? What does it look like? Does it start with me just being in my head a lot? Like, what does it look like? What does negative self-image look like? Like, what does the spiraling look like? What does the repetition look like? What does it look like? Number 4. So after you get to the root, number 4, when was the seed planted? And this is where, you begin to go down and get a little emotional. But that's why we got our master counselor in heaven. Okay. Because this is what I love about it. I think it's very important to get release and find a release. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the times we're struggling and we're bound because of a memory, right? That we refuse to release, right? Maybe we couldn't express emotionally at that time how it made us feel. So whether you got to scream, whether you got to shout, whether you got to cry, whatever the case may be, but just allow the Lord to resurface when this seed was planted. And again, that's why I always say include the Lord in it, because I would even pray and say, hey, God, I need you to be with me, because this is very emotional for me. This is very hard for me. I need you to resurface it in your time when you think it's best for me to deal with something like this. But yeah, asking the Lord to resurface. I mean, there's been multiple times that I've done this and I would just weep and bawl my eyes out, or I would just be angry, or whatever the case may be, but I would get it out. You know what I mean? I would express how it made me feel, all the things, because again, a lot of the reasons we are bound is because we are refusing to address it and we are trying to avoid it. And that's all things therapy 101. So, of course, if this is not something that you feel comfortable or you want to invite community into, go to your therapist. Okay. And so then after that, you want to learn to replace the root, right? You want to learn to replace the root. So now it's time to work and start the pattern of positive thinking and self-talk. So again, once you realize, okay, this is a trigger, this is a bad habit, what I'm trying to replace is this bad habit. So with this bad habit, again, you're trying to replace that. And so you want to, whether you have to put a paper down or write down on a piece of paper, create boxes. Okay, this is the trigger, middle box. I always think diagram. I always think boxes because that's just how I think. But again, the first box, this is the trigger. The second box, this is the old pattern or the bad behavior or bad habit. And then the third box can be, what I want my new behavior or my new pattern or my new habit, good habit to be, right? What do I want my response to be when I encounter certain things that may set off that trigger, set off that alarm? And so that's kind of what you want to go through and do. Again, this 5-step process is to help you to overcome negative self-thinking, negative self-perspective, negative self-image. Okay. Friends, that's all I got for you today. I hope that you love this video. If you did, you want to see more, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and share with your community. Share with your besties, share with your girl, share with your boo, share, okay? Because I feel like we all need to learn, especially as visionaries and creatives, that sometimes the reason why you can't do what you're supposed to be doing with your business, with your ministry, whatever, your blog, your content, the reason you can't do it is because you don't see yourself in the correct lens. All right. That's all. That's it. I will see you in the next video. Love you. Bye.